How surprised are you that we now have a series in the Eastern Conference?
I'm stunned. I thought it was over after game one. I really, really did, because I thought that was the Raptors' opportunity to take advantage of this series. The Milwaukee Bucks had nearly a week off after obliterating the Boston Celtics in the conference semifinals. They were rested. They were ready to go, but they were rusty because they hadn't been shooting the ball in game action. They had missed. They went like 11 for 44 from three-point range, and only made 25% of their three-pointers as well. Kawhi Leonard had over 30. Kyle Lowry had 30 points that game, and still Toronto managed to lose the game. So I thought that was Toronto's opportunity. They had blown it, and that this series was a foregone conclusion. And then they got obliterated, meaning the Raptors, in game two. I knew they'd win game three and pull within 2-1, but I thought Milwaukee would come out ready to roll, particularly after the Greek Freak was held to just 12 points in game three. I thought that he would come out like a monster in game four, which he did at the start of the game. But then ultimately, even with a hobbled Kawhi Leonard, courtesy of a collective defensive effort on the part of the Toronto Raptors, they were neutralized, and they figured out something that I don't think any of us had seen, and it was this, guys. When you look at the Milwaukee Bucks right now, the ball is usually in the Greek Freak's hands, okay? When you have a situation, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, when Toronto has the ball, Toronto kept putting Milwaukee in switching situations involving Brook Lopez, involving Mirotic, and obviously when you look at it with those two guys, along with Ilyasova, you see those guys in switching situations where they have to defend an on-ball guy. They couldn't handle it. And so Toronto was finding a way to take advantage of that offensively, even with a hobbled Kawhi Leonard, and Milwaukee seemed ill-equipped to do anything about it. I understand they're going home, and they're a different team at home, and Toronto may be a different team on the road. But if I'm the Toronto Raptors, I'm going into Game 5 with virtual house money, because I'm confident I can close the deal in Game 6. Game 5 puts all the pressure on Milwaukee. They've got to win that game or come back to Toronto to win Game 6 if they find themselves losing Game 5. And I think that all the pressure is on Milwaukee right now, because we've seen them get a bit exposed when the Greek Freak is not on a roll.
I think you've seen this series all wrong from the beginning. It's not a series until the home team loses. Toronto won 59 games 2 years ago, first in the East, but they didn't have a Kawhi Leonard on the team. They won 58 games this year. The only reason that's not first in the East is because the Bucks won 60 games because they got Budenholzer and built around Giannis the proper way. It's a clash of the Titans. I've said from the beginning, this is to determine who the best player in the world is. Is it Giannis or is it Kawhi? And right now, Kawhi is in the lead. But more than just that, that's an oversimplification. Neither one of these teams, and this is why the Warriors are alive with or without KD, neither one of these two teams has a bona fide, surefire all-star other than their superstar, other than their MVP caliber player. On the Bucks, it can be Middleton. He's kind of a bubble-type all-star. You know, I think maybe Brogdon under the right circumstances. Bledsoe at his best, right? On the Raptors, can Lowry be that guy? Siakam seems to be developing that way. But really what we have at this point still, there are two MVPs and a bunch of above-average starters, no doubt about it, with some upside, with some potential, but really role players. And so what happens in the playoffs to role players? Generally, you can rely on them at home more than you can on the road. As much as I've made this about Giannis versus Kawhi, and I believe in many respects it is, it's also about two similarly constructed teams with a lot of above-average players who need to step up. Now, the reason I like the Bucks is I think the ups, like Brogdon, I think is really good. Middleton, I think, is maybe better than anyone else on the Raptors, and he played well last night. But it still comes down to who's going to show up, right? Well, Mirotic is no good. Ilyasova is no good. Bledsoe's been awful. So those guys lose. Toronto's role players stepped up. Yesterday, they won. I believe when the series goes back to Milwaukee, the Milwaukee role players will step up, and it will be a 3-2 series.
Well, Max, first of all, a couple of things. Number one, I have attitude. I'll be the first to admit it to both you and Will, because I was on the line in customs for 2 hours. I didn't get hooked up like I thought I would, Max. It was very, very difficult.
Wait, I was there when you got the call.
No, I was so disgusted. I was so disgusted. They had me in customs, Mac. It took me 2 hours to get from the airport after I landed. After I was in the line, it took me 2 hours to get to downtown Toronto because of them damn customs. I was not looked out for. So, damn it, I'm not rooting for the Raptors. That's number one.
That's why. That's why. You've been talking bad about the Raptors.
Let me tell you something. They got me good. They got me good. That's why I got my sneakers on this morning, because I'm preparing to have to stand in line again if necessary. I can't trust anybody in Canada right now. And I love the city. It's a beautiful city. But I can't trust anybody in Canada right now. But let me get back to your point. Let me ask you this question. When you talk about the series, and I had it all wrong because guess what? It's not a series until a home team loses. Max Kellerman, if Toronto loses Game 5, but then wins Game 6, right? Each team would have won at home. Is it a series then going into Game 7?
If Toronto wins Game 5, what, you're saying if they defend home court,
in other words,
or if they don't defend home court?
I'm basically debunking the theory that, it's not a series until the home team loses. A home team can win every game. It's still a series. It's still a series. That's all I'm saying.
Well, of course, but you would favor the Bucks. They have home court. Until one of these two teams shows they can win on the road, the Bucks will be favored. They're still the favorites today, I am sure, because they have that home court. Even you admitted as much when you said Toronto now is playing with house money. In a way, the pressure's on the Bucks because Toronto goes and steals a Game 5. The Bucks have not yet shown that they can win on the road. My point is this: to evenly match teams, to evenly match superstars, in my view, role players, the whole thing. One team has home court. They are the favorites until they lose it.